Baruch Hashem, thank the Almighty God. The laws of immersing utensils. When someone who purchases utensils whose function relates to a meal from an idolater, even if they are new utensils and there is no concern that they were used for non-kosher food, if they are made from any type of metal or glass, it is forbidden to use them for any food purposes, even for cold foods, until he immerses them in a spring or a mikveh, and it is valid for the immersion of a woman at that time. The immersion is required so that utensils will emerge thereby from the spiritual impurity of having been owned by an idolater and enter into the holiness of being owned by a Jew. Before the immersion, one recites a blessing. When immersing one utensil, one recites Asher Baruch Atah Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kishana Mitzvah V'Tzivanu All Tivilas Keli. Blessed are you, Hashem, who has sanctified us with his commandments and has commanded us regarding the immersion of a utensil. When immersing two or more vessels, one recites the following blessing: Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kishana Mitzvah V'Tzivanu All Tivilas Keli. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, who sanctified us with the commandments and commanded us regarding the immersions of utensils. Since utensils require immersion specifically in a place where it is valid for immersion of a woman, therefore one must be careful not to immerse them in rivers when they are swollen from rain or melting snow. This is a very common situation before Pesach. Wooden utensils do not require immersion. Wooden utensils, however, if they have iron hoops on them, they require immersion, but without the blessing. Earthenware vessels, too, do not require immersion. However, if they are coated only on the outside with lead, which they call glazer, they require immersion without reciting the blessing. The same applies to utensils of porcelain. Porcelain utensils do not require immersion, but as with earthenware, if the inside was coated with a material that requires immersion, they are to be immersed without a blessing. If it is an old used utensil, which the idolater had used in the manner that would require that it be rendered fit for kosher use, but either hagla, purging with hot water, or ibun, fire purging, one must render it fit for kosher use and then immerse it. If the non-kosher taste become absorbed in the utensil through a use that did not involve liquid, for example, non-kosher meat was boiled on a grill, it must be purged with ibun, heating the utensil intensely directly over the fire. If one immerses the utensils before purging them of the non-kosher flavor, his action appears paradoxical, as he is attempting to purify them through tevilah, while at the same time retaining their non-kosher impurities. Shach Yoredeh 121.4 and Taz 121.1. He must first kosher it and then immerse it. If one immerses the utensils, so you first purge it through hot water or even fire purging and then immerse the utensil. If one borrowed or rented a utensil from an idolater, it does not require immersion since it belongs to the idolater. However, it must have been used for if it may have been used for non-kosher food, one must perform hagla or ibn, fire purging, or hagla, purging with hot water. If one borrows or rents a utensil made by an idolater for a Jewish shopkeeper, they require immersion without a blessing. In this case, there is an opinion between the authorities, Yoredeh 120, whether such utensils require immersion or not. The borrower or renter must therefore immerse them in order to fill the possible requirement. Nevertheless, no blessing is recited to avoid the possibility of reciting a blessing in vain. If one served kosher food or kosher dishes in a Jewish establishment where the dishes have not been immersed, the halakha is as follows. If the food is liquid, such as soup or drink, which cannot be served without a bowl or cup, it is forbidden to eat or drink from the utensil if it was not immersed. If the food is solid, then in cases of pressing need, one may consider the plate upon which is resting unnecessary to the meal and eat the food that is on the plates either with his hands or cutlery made of material that does not require immersion. And the shopkeeper should inform whoever will later purchase the utensil that it has been immersed previously, in order that the purchaser not immerse it a second time with a blessing. If a Jew has a factory in which glass utensils are manufactured and the workers are not Jews, then the utensils that are manufactured there require immersion without reciting the blessing. If a Jew gave silver or some other types of metal to an idolatrous craftsman to make utensil for him, or repair it for a utensil that has developed a hole, and the vessel in it is broken, state that it cannot hold a revius, then upon completion the utensil also requires immersion without a blessing. In these cases, it's unclear whether the considered utensil in which the idolater has ownership, in order due to the improvement contributed by him, we consider the craftsman to have acquired a degree of ownership. This requires immersion. However, if the improvement does not grant him even partial ownership of the utensil, it does not require immersion because of the certain uncertainty the utensil must be immersed, but a blessing should not be recited. There is no need to immerse all utensils that come into contact with food. Rather, only utensil that is used for food that is ready to be eaten immediately without further preparation requires immersion. This includes not only utensils such as dishes and cutlery, which are for fully preferred food, but also for pots, since they come in contact with food, or other utensils that can be later prepared. However, iron utensils, which unbaked matzos are prepared, in which dough is cut, and the needle in which birds are sewn before being cooked, and the like, do not require immersion, but a slaughtering knife or knife used for skinning animals, such as a knife, could be used to prepare food, and similarly, the trays upon which unbaked matzahs are placed during preparation require immersion without reciting the blessing. Regarding a tripod on which the pot is placed while cooking, the law is that since the food does not come in contact with it, it does not require immersion. However, an iron spit, which meat is roasted, require immersion with a blessing. Some authorities say large glass utensils, jugs, and bottles from which one does not drink, but people hold beverages in them and to pour from them into cups, are not considered utensils that pertain to a meal and do not require immersion. Other authorities say they do require immersion. Yad Ephraim Yoredeh 120. Therefore, one should immerse them without a blessing. One who buys whiskey or coffee in a glass bottle or other food items in cans from an idolatry is not required to immerse these bottles or containers before using them for other food. This is because these bottles and containers have no intrinsic value to the idolatrous seller and are purely intended for the sake of containing food and drink inside them. It is only in the hands of the Jewish purchaser and that they gain the status and importance of utensils that gain their own right when you decide to use them to hold other foods afterwards. They are thus deemed utensils made by a Jew, which do not require immersion. A pepper mill requires immersion because of the metal blades. One must care to ensure that before the immersion the vessel is clean and there is no dirt or rust on it. However, a mark left by rust that has been removed, or a mere presence of blackness which is normal, is not objected to and does not interfere with the immersion. All sides of the utensil must be submerged in the mikveh. If dirt or rust was in the vessel, it is chatzitza interposition between the water and the vessel, which invalidates the immersion. Even if dirt covers only a small area which normally would be ignored, it is preferable to be removed. However, the immersion was performed without removing it is deemed insignificant and the immersion is valid. One must immerse the entire vessel at once so that it is all in the water. A utensil that has a handle must be submerged in the water in its entirety at one time with the handle. The person who is immersing the utensil holding it in his hand must first dip his hand in the water where he will immerse the vessel. They should not grasp the utensil with force, but with an average grip. Similarly, if they are immersing by means of a rope tied to the utensil, for example, they are immersing it in a well, they must see that the knot is loose so the water can cover the entire surface of the utensil. If one is immersing utensils with narrow openings, he must take care to ensure that they remain in the water until they become filled with water. A boy who is less than 13 years old and a girl who is less than 12 years old are not trusted regarding the immersion of utensils. It is prohibited to immerse a utensil on Shabbos or Yom Tov festival days. Therefore, if one forgot to immerse the utensil before Yom Tov, Shabbos or Yom Tov, he should give it to an idolater as a gift, then borrow it from him. Yoredeh 1:2018. If the utensil was not immersed before Shabbos can be used to bring water, then it is a place that one may carry water on Shabbos. He may draw water with it, immersing it totally in water and bring it home, thus in effect immersing the vessel. This is permitted as it does not appear that he is immersing the utensil for halakhic reasons. However, he should recite a blessing. He should not recite a blessing over the immersion. Thank you for listening.